wanted to share with you a couple of things that I have been working on. One of them is a crochet project that I just started, and this is going to be my evening project. As I've mentioned in other videos, I've really been looking for like just an evening lap project that is fairly basic, something that I can handle, but something that can keep my hands busy in the evenings and I can spend time with my family at the same time. It works out beautifully. So my first idea for this project, because I'm not a great crocheter, I'm really very much a beginner crocheter, even though I've had a dabble in it over the years, but I've never got beyond a very basic level. And I have mentioned this in a previous video when I was doing some crochet. In that video I think I was crocheting kitchen cloths at that point. And I mentioned in that video that I did want to do a blanket, and quite a few of you very wisely said, don't attempt a blanket, do smaller things first. But I'm a little bit pig-headed, and I just really felt that I really wanted to do a blanket. And also it's autumn here now, and the weather is definitely getting cooler, and it just has that sort of feel in the air that just makes you want to cozy up with really nice things. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a blanket. My first idea was to do a ripple blanket. If you've seen these, I just love the way they look. They're basically rows of stitches, and you increase and decrease in different parts, and then eventually that creates a ripple. If you haven't heard of them and you're interested, look them up. They're really, really pretty. I wanted to do one of those, and I wanted to stripe it in different colors. So I spent, I don't know, about a week watching YouTube videos, following instructions, and trying to do like a little sample for a ripple blanket. And it just was a little bit too much for me. The stitches I could understand, and I'm understanding a lot more things now that were troubling me before, like where to put my hook at different times. Stuff like that. There was like really fundamental stuff to understanding what to do. But I just found the sequence a little bit hard, the repetition. I thought I really need a little bit more experience before I attempt a ripple blanket, but I didn't want to give up on the blanket idea altogether. So I thought, okay, I will do a stripy blanket, and I'll do it in a basic repetitive stitch. I hadn't decided at the time what that stitch was going to be, but I thought if I can repeat the same stitch over and over for an entire row and then turn it and then repeat that stitch over again, that is going to be easy for me eventually, even if it's not first of all. And so this is what I've come up with, a single crochet blanket. I've just started this a couple of days ago. It is quite large. It's sort of a lap blanket size, but even a little bit more generous than a lap blanket size. So this is the width of the blanket. And so what I'm basically doing is I'm crocheting single crochets along every row and then turning it and then doing the same and then turning it and doing the same. And the only thing that's changing is the colors. And I'm going to show you exactly what I am doing in a moment if you are interested, if you're a beginner crocheter as well, or maybe you haven't even tried crochet and you're interested in trying it. I'm just going to show you a little sample of this so that you can get an idea of the simplicity of it. But basically I'm doing one row of the hot pink. Then I'm doing 2 rows of color, and I'm alternating between the blue and the yellow for the color. So the first row here is blue. Then I'm doing 1 row of the pink, 2 rows of the yellow, 1 of the pink, and then back to blue. So it's just alternating between those colors with 1 row of pink in between. And it's really beautiful and effective so far. I just absolutely love the colors. I wasn't sure about them to start with, but I'm really glad that I did choose those colors. And I have no idea how long this blanket is going to take me, and I'm not worried about it at all because I'm really just enjoying doing it at the moment, and hopefully I will continue to enjoy doing it enough to finish the blanket. Okay, so my blanket, just a quick demo. So I have the yarn and the hook at one end. My hook's upside down at the moment. And so I ended the row and then I chained 1 and then I turned around. So what I'm going to do is just go into the first stitch there, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through, and then I need to tighten, whoa, just need to tighten up that chain a little bit. It's gotten loose. And then yarn over and pull through both. And then it's basically just that repeated over and over. I'm not sure if this single crochet is something different in US terms. I know the terminology is different. This is a single crochet in UK terms. What I'm using here is I'm using an 8-ply Australian Merino, which is a DK weight. And I'm using, let me check, yeah, it's a 5mm or number 8 crochet hook. That's actually a little bit big for this kind of yarn, of this weight of yarn, but it suits me well because I didn't want the fabric to be too dense. For the blanket, I want it to be just a little bit loose, and I'm finding that it's really quite nice like this. So I'm just going under every stitch, pulling through, yarning over, and pulling through both. See how incredibly simple that is, even for me. And you'll notice as well, if you saw my last crochet video a little while ago now, when I was doing the cloths, oops, I've done something there, got to get that stitch over. You will notice that I sort of have the hands down a little bit better. Last time I was really struggling to pull through the loops and that kind of thing, but I've got like a much better tensioning now, a bit more of an understanding of how to hold the yarn, the tail of yarn, and how to hold the work and the hook as well, so that I can pull through those, because previously I was relying on my fingers like this to actually manually put the stitches through, and that works fine. Like, it works exactly the same, but it's really time consuming if you have to do that. So a few of you recommended to me in that last video that I needed to angle my hook down more as I draw it through the stitches, and doing that has really helped, so thank you for that. And I've also had really good guidance from my daughter Gemma. She's helped me a lot because she's really good at crochet, and so I can always just check with her, have I put this stitch in the right place, have I done the right thing here, or am I on the wrong track? It's really nice to have that little bit of guidance when you're not sure. So anyway, that's going to be a double row of blue, and then at the end, let's go right to the end so that we can see. At the end here, I'm going to crochet into the last stitch just with that single crochet again, then make a chain, just chain one, and that's for turning, and then turn the work and then crochet back. If I'm changing color, which I will be at the end of this row, and you can see the different tails, colors of tails that have been left behind, then I loop the new color into that last stitch instead of continuing with the blue yarn. You can also see here I've been buying up a whole bunch of yarn recently. All of this yarn is wool, and it's all from Bendigo Woolen Mills. And I tell you, if you are going to order from there, if you're planning to order from there, do it now, because the shipping is super fast at the moment. If you wait until the weather turns much colder, then it's going to become like a snail's pace. It happens every single year. So order now if you're going to order. So just to go over them a little bit, I've got here, these are 3-ply, yep, 3-ply, so quite lightweight. These ones are basically just to add to my knitting machine yarn collection, just to add some different colors, and I'm going to continue to be doing some Fair Isle and experimenting with my own Fair Isle designs on the knitting machine, as I've mentioned in other videos. And I just wanted to bring in some more colors so that I can just grab different colors off the shelf and see how they work. And I think these are just really beautiful colors, and I'm already envisioning them on the machine. Now, all of these are for a project that I can't tell you about at the moment, but I'd still like to show you some of the colors because they're so pretty. One of my favorite combinations out of all of these are these two together. So this one is Luxury 4-ply Coastal Blue, and this one is Luxury 4-ply Rose Petals. I think the light's putting it off a little bit, which is a shame, but I just really love these two colors together, and I'm definitely going to be using them in the piece that I do. And then I've got some other really nice deep rich colors like these ones, really lovely. And then some others that, you know, I got to maybe give a little bit of a color pop in what I'm doing. So I'm looking forward to doing that piece. And I'm always really happy when I'm well stocked with Bendigo wool, especially in the 4-ply, which is a fingering weight, because I know that there's just so much that I can do with those yarns.
Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Te, te, a, te, o, tu. Te, te, a, te, o, tu. Here shall ye see no enemy but winter and rough weather.
Have I ever introduced you to my spinning wheel? I actually don't think that I have. This is a Sleeping Beauty spinning wheel. It was made in New Zealand. It's a double drive, so you can see there are 2 bands here. And when I bought it secondhand from a lady, and it did need a bit of work. and I was completely unfamiliar with spinning wheels at that time. This is going back many years now. I took it to the Spinners and Weavers Guild in Melbourne, and a very kind gentleman there had a look at it for me, and he just kind of fiddled with a few things. He replaced a little bit of leather, he oiled things, tightened things up, and then after that it was working much better than it had been. But it's still imperfect, and so when you hear it going in a minute, you'll probably hear like a clacking kind of noise. It doesn't really bother me because it's always done that, and to me it's just kind of part of the rhythmic ambience of the wheel when I'm using it. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be done to the wheel in order to fix it, but it works for spinning fleece, and I guess that's the most important thing really. So I'm very happy to be sitting at my spinning wheel again because I really don't find a lot of time for it. And I had an idea a few days ago, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I filmed a project, loosely filmed a project, not as a class or a tutorial, but just as a kind of process video for you to watch and join in along as I dye some fleece, spin the fleece, and then weave it into a scarf or something like that. If you think that sounds interesting, let me know in the comments below, because if enough people are interested, then I will make it a priority. I have actually done that before and made a lovely scarf. It does take a fair bit of work, as you can imagine, but it could be something that you could sort of follow along with me for a little while. I do have here this wonderful fleece that I can dye and spin. This is from First Edition Fibre and Yarns, and it is Merino Cashgora. I can't tell you how beautifully silky it is, but you can probably imagine as soon as I said Cashgora. I'm not sure if they still sell fleece like this because I have had this for some time, but you can go on their website and they've got all sorts of beautiful fleeces for you to look at. Some of them are dyed, some are undyed. And so that's what I'm using here today to spin up a little bit. I did dye this some time ago as well, but I think that these are some of the most glorious colors imaginable. I absolutely love them. They're really, really my favorites. And I think that they look quite magical when you're spinning them too. So I don't have particular plans for this. I just wanted to start spinning again. And so that's what I'm doing. There are heaps and heaps of methods of spinning, and I don't know what this method is called that I'm using right now, but it's one way that I like to spin. So I pull a little bit of the fleece off the bowl, and then I usually strip it into maybe 3 parts. So just pulling apart like this, lay them out. I should have an apron on here, because I'm going to get this all over myself, but never mind. And so, yeah, around 3 strips. And then to prepare it a little bit, I just pull gently at different sections to kind of loosen it up. I don't pull it apart at this point, but just so that it lets go a little bit and fluffs out. I am definitely no spinning expert. The person who got me started with spinning is called Kathy, and she is from Cat and Sparrow Fibres. I'm going to link to that down below. She makes some beautiful things, and she was living not too far. We were living not too far from each other at the time, and so I did a few classes with her, and she really got me going with the spinning wheel because I wasn't having a lot of luck on my own. She was a fantastic, calm teacher, and I really appreciated her help. All right, so then I have my pieces just laid out, and I want to pull out or tease out even more a little bit towards the end so that that's ready to join onto my other piece. So this is the piece that I have been spinning here, and I've got a bit more of that to go first. Okay, so start up. Something I'm aiming for here with my spinning is to be able to consistently spin quite thin, because for weaving I prefer working with really quite thin, lighter yarns. And so that's what I'm aiming for. I've got a few parts in here that are a little bit slubby, but I'm pretty pleased with how I've gone so far. I need to practice just having the right rhythm for my foot and for my hands as well. I think I've got the tension fairly well. I will adjust the tension as more yarn goes onto the bobbin, but the tension's good at the moment. So for the tension, what I'm looking for is having the right amount of pull on so that the yarn feeds really nicely onto the bobbin, but not so much pull that it over twists the yarn and pulls the yarn in faster than I can draw it out. I, like a lot of crafts that I do, I like to go slowly. I don't like to rush, and so this is perfect, just figuring out the space. And it's a good way for me to force myself to slow down too, because I find that while I'm spinning, that foot gets faster and faster, and then the bobbin spins too fast for me, and then I have to say, oh, okay, whoa, slow down a bit and get that rhythm back. It's a beautiful rhythmic activity. Now, I did dye this fleece some time ago, and I dyed it in my favorite colors, as I already said. Now what I need to do here is I need to move the yarn on the hooks so that it starts to feed onto a different part of the bobbin, because you don't want too much yarn feeding onto the same place. And then from there I just keep going, drawing it out. This fleece is just so gorgeous and easy to use. Merino cashgora. How could you go wrong with that combination? I also have some really lovely merino silk. All kinds of wonderful fibers you can get if you are interested in spinning. All kinds of wheels too. But maybe don't ask me questions about wheels, because I only know about my wheel. I mean, I'm familiar with the other types of wheels, but not in using them. And it's pretty much the same with spinning methods. I'm familiar with how to do this basic spinning of the fleece, but I haven't experimented with a heap of different methods or anything. Oop, there goes my drive band, okay. So I need to put that back on. Okay, I finally got my band back on. I actually had to look up a tutorial because it just wasn't working out for me. And I watched a really great tutorial by Jillian Eve. I will link to her down below. And I even learned something, and that is that the drive band needs to be changed when I go to do my Z-twist. The Z-twist is putting the two singles, applying the two singles together. So what I'm doing right here at the moment is a single. That is, it's just one piece of yarn that is twisted. When I've finished this bobbin, I'll change to another bobbin. I'll do another bobbin of single twisted yarn, and I will S-twist that as well. And that just means that my wheel's going in the clockwise direction. And then when I've got those two yarns, I'm going to Z-twist them together at the very end. And that means that my wheel will be going in the opposite direction. And yeah, I did not know that I needed to change my band in order to do that. Or maybe I knew it, but I had forgotten it. So I'm going to change my length of fleece in just a moment. So you might want to have a closer look at that. Getting close to the end of this piece. And I'm still trying to work on that really thin consistency. And keeping my rhythm, timing not too fast. Here we go. going to bring in the new piece. And then away we go again with a whole new piece. Now I probably need to move my yarn again. I'll move it along to the last hook. And I think I actually want to tighten my tension a little bit at this point. So I do that with this little knob over here. And I can turn it either way. Which way am I going? Okay, there we go. A little tighter tension. Because I just noticed that my yarn didn't have as much twist in it, and I wanted a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to carry on spinning here, and would you please let me know if you are interested in following along in that kind of project, seeing how I might dye something like this, and then just seeing different parts of the process. I think it can be really interesting because often, very often, we only see one part of a process and it doesn't necessarily give the full picture about like the amount of work that can go into just one project, or not just the amount of work, because that makes it sound like a negative thing, but you know, one of my ideas for all the different crafts I've done, whether it's weaving, spinning, knitting, crocheting, dyeing, whatever, I've done all kinds of things. I've always wanted to do it as authentically as possible and to start from nearest to the source or the beginning as much as possible. And, you know, without actually getting wool from our own sheep and processing it, which I do have some wool from our own sheep. It's sitting in bags because it is a lot of work to process it yourself, and I don't have all the tools that I would need, and also we don't have spare water. Water's always a bit of an issue here, so we have to conserve the water, and so I can't be doing things like repeatedly washing dirty sheep fleece. But I do have some of that wool in bags from the last time that our sheep were shorn, so that gives me options for the future. But anyway, I digress, because I was just saying about wanting to start at the beginning of a project and then see it right through to the end. So buying the fleece already prepared like this is very, very helpful. It really cuts down on the amount of work that needs to be done, and I guess makes the whole thing more achievable. Okay, more tension. I may have to replace this band because I didn't have a lot of room. If you can see here, that's my knot, so I didn't have a lot of length to make the knot with. I may have to make a longer band, but that's okay. Now I know how to do it properly, thanks to Jillian's video. Isn't it wonderful that we can all learn so much from each other, from our own little areas of specialty, and just inspire each other so much too through YouTube. It's a really wonderful thing. Another thing that I like to do when I spin a really colourful fleece like this one, I like to ply it with a solid colour sometimes. I've done that before. I've plied it with a black. So instead of plying it with itself, like I probably intend to do with this particular fleece or this yarn, apply it with a solid colour that contrasts really well. That can look really beautiful. I may have a picture somewhere. If I do, I'll put it up on the screen of like an example of what that could look like. So friends, I'll continue to spin here and you can enjoy a nice little bit of music, some peace, and then you don't have to listen to the clacking of my wheel so much. My Sleeping Beauty, which doesn't sound so much like a Sleeping Beauty, but it's my wheel and I love it. I have to say, Charlie, I'm very disappointed with you. Yesterday, I come in here, I find you standing on my work table. Today, I'm sitting here peacefully spinning, and you come out of nowhere and you're covered with fluff. And then you just sit there and stare at me like it's my fault. This was definitely not part of our agreement. Charlie is a huntsman, and he's been hanging out in my studio for about a week, and I sort of have an understanding with huntsmen. They're not dangerous spiders, they're a good type of spider, and although I don't want them anywhere near me, I will tolerate them being in my studio. If they want to hang out for a little while, that's okay, because sometimes flies and other insects do make their way in here, so it's like a mutually beneficial situation. But the agreement is that they stay put, somewhere that I can see them, because you know when they vanish, it's just like when a toddler vanishes, you just know that they're up to no good. Now he's just sitting over there on the floor, literally staring at me and covered in fluff. Yesterday he was brown. Today he's like a light grey. So I don't know what I'm going to do about this, because he keeps popping up in strange places and I don't really like it. Although I've never been a big fan of spiders, they are God's creatures and they're kind of cute in their own way. And so I don't want to come down hard on them. But this just won't do. If you have a problem with arachnids, I recommend that you look away right now, because I'm going to show you what Charlie looks like and you can see how ridiculous he is covered in fluff.